Well, good day, my friends. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion, and as you can see, we're back in Virginia today. And today we are going to the home and grave of the great Thomas Jefferson. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. This area is beautiful. Here's our sign. This is so cool. I love history, and we're talking founding fathers here. 3rd President of the United States, 1st Secretary of State, Declaration of Independence. Wow. Imagine the horse and buggy. All right, so it's currently 2 o'clock. In order to see the inside of the house, I booked a self-guided tour, and the earliest availability was in 2 hours. So we'll go see the gravesite and some other things before that, and then we'll get to go inside his house. Oh, right here at the shuttles. The man himself.
Monticello is a National Historic Landmark and the only presidential home in the United States designated as a United Nations World Heritage Site.
So it actually drops us off in the back side of the house. And he had submitted, if I remember right, he had submitted his own architectural drawings for the White House when the White House was being built. And they ended up going with a different architect. And so Thomas Jefferson used them for his own house. So we're gonna walk around it and see the main entrance. All the flowers and everything. This is a huge place, by the way. I think it was 500 acres. He had, I think, 400 slaves. It was a pretty vast property which is strange. That's one of those things people always wonder about. It's like, he had all these slaves and everything, but then he was always trying to get things passed that were ending slavery. Let's go through here. This is great. This big deck overlooking all the property. His parents were, well, his mother was at least from a wealthy family, and she was from London. His father was from Virginia, so he had a pretty privileged upbringing, a lot of great schooling, and was learning Greek, Latin, and French by the time he was 9. So this they call the South Pavilion, and they say that Jefferson used to call this his outchamber. Erected it in 1770. It contained one room over a kitchen. Jefferson lived here alone until his marriage to Martha Wales Skelton in January of 1772. Cool. And then there's the storybook front of the property. And that's what we were just looking at. You had a little fish pond over here too. So yeah, he had a lot of education in his life. He loved to read. He was a book collector. When he was in college, he studied 15 hours a day, and then when he wasn't studying, he was practicing his violin all night. The guy was just really an unbelievable person. So he was very schooled, and so his ideas came from philosophical places, scientific places, historical places. One of the things I remember being taught very heavily when I was growing up with it, how smart the founding fathers were and how many problems they foresaw that they tried to stop and advance. I love checking out all the flowers and everything on the property. So he had 6 kids with his wife Martha, and she passed away when I think she was 33 years old. And then he eventually had a relationship with Sally Hemings, who was one of his slaves. And there's always been a lot of speculation because there's like 6 children attested to him with her, and they were always, you know, like I was saying, the curiosity was always, he was always fighting against slavery, but he had so many slaves. The theory on it apparently is that people just believe that he thought, because he had some very, very close slaves his entire life that he kind of considered family. I guess it's kind of widely believed that he just thought that he couldn't have a close relationship publicly with them without receiving a lot of backlash, and that's why he kept the slaves, was to give them, make sure they had a good life and make sure that they weren't eventually sold to someone else or something like that. So that is a great looking house. I can't wait to get in there and look around. Look at that dome and everything. It's amazing. I want to go over there and see what that building is right there. So the other one we saw was also known as the South Pavilion. This was the North Pavilion, and it says that he didn't have the house fully realized till about 1808, and so his daughter, he let his daughter move in and her family, and it says that her husband used this as an office. His daughter Martha moved here permanently in 1809, and her husband Thomas Randolph used it. And then it was partially destroyed by a fire, it says, and they had to come out and get snow and throw snow on here to stop the fire. And we're on the other side of the house, and the reason he called this Monticello was that meant little mountain, house on the little mountain. Yeah, we couldn't come here and not take the tour inside. I gotta see what the inside's like. I love this kind of stuff. All right, let's go see his grave. Take this long trail out here, and they're still identifying foundations of slave buildings and woodworking areas and various things here. I don't think just he's here. I think this is a giant family cemetery, by the way. Oh yeah, it's not a small one. So here they're telling the story of his obelisk here, that it had to be replaced because it says in 1883 the family members erected a monument on his grave the way he wanted, but he instructed them to do the engraving and inscription right on it, and they didn't. They put a marble slab attached to the granite, and soon the monument was installed. It became the object of vandalism, so the graveyard erected a brick wall around it and also an iron fence. And then in 1882 the government appropriated $10,000 to replace the original monument, which was severely damaged. Wow. Here was buried Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of the American Independence, of the Statue of Virginia for Religious Freedom, father of the University of Virginia. Then down at the foot of it says Martha Jefferson Randolph, his daughter. So in here it actually has a map that shows you how everyone is buried and who all is buried underneath there. There's actually, if you look at it, there's underneath, there's a total of 5 plots. And so if you look at the numbers on there, Thomas Jefferson is number 6, right in the very center, and number 4 below him is his daughter. That's the one we saw. And then number 7, right there beside him, that was his wife Martha. Thomas would be in the center right here, his daughter would be right here, and his wife would be right here. The story of the graveyard. An agreement between 2 young men, Thomas Jefferson and Dabney Carr, and Dabney Carr is also buried under there. Says, who were schoolmates and friends, they agree that they should be buried under a great oak which stood here. Carr, who married Jefferson's sister, died in 1773. His was the first grave on this site which Jefferson laid out as a family burying ground. Jefferson was buried here in 1826. So that means the rest of these would have been all extended family. And this one right here says Jane Randolph, wife of Peter Jefferson, mother of Thomas Jefferson. She's got a few dead roses on there. And now we go inside. So this is where he lived after his presidency. Wow. This is the first year they've allowed photography in the house. He said this is how it would have looked until he died. Animal heads on the wall. Look at this fossil here. So this is just the entryway that we've seen. That was the front door right over there. Let's move on. And when he lived here, his daughter and her family would have lived here, which was about 12, 13 people. So at any given time, there were 12 to 20 people living here. And he was an avid book collector of like 6,000 books. See, more books.
Yeah. Well, did you see?
Including a life mask of someone. Here's his library.
Yeah. Just like the ones you had done was, where happened to you? I don't know that you have. No. Is it possible that in one of my...
Right over here he's got a bust of James Madison.
Do you know how tall he was? Wow.
He was 6'2", they said. There's John Adams. Here was his cabinet area. That's George Washington, bust of George Washington over there. The bed. Some of his clothes. And the bed actually connects to this room as well, so his bed chamber and his cabinet and everything connected. He's got a clock in there, a gun, a sword, in case someone should awaken him in the night. Map of Africa, which this room takes us back into the entryway that we came in. which I guess is technically the back of the house. Oh, I see that pyramid. Somebody right now is saying something. You know what you're saying? You guys are all calling conspiracy right now. I did just notice in the back entryway, look at the top, there's an eagle right at the very, 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 very top. Now this is interesting. All along the top I see paintings of presidents. Well, George Washington up there. Himself. Wow, what a room. Giant mirror. It's a picture of Benjamin Franklin up there. Of course, him being an accomplished musician, you knew he had to have a room for entertaining and playing music. It's a beautiful room, perfect for it too. Out looks over the front yard. It's got like a harpsichord over here, I think that is. What is that, a camera? Camera obscura? Chess. Table for drinking, looking out over the porch. Wow, beautiful room.
Very fancy round window, but the curtains.
Lots of people on this tour. That's cool, I love it, right?
There's one of the skylights. There are many skylights.
Got like a knitting setup over there for tea. Tea set. And I see Benjamin Franklin up there in the busts. George Washington, Madison. Some of the actual china and glasses. His insignias on them. Even that carpet's pretty interesting. All right, moving on. Kind of cool to see what you can do if you want to build your own house or design your own house. This is what he did. Oh look, that's one of those spinning doors. Like a rotating door to put things on. Inventive. He was a smart guy.
Oh, it's the first one. Yeah, and the dome.
That's the upstairs. And out we come. Here's the dairy room for churning butter. Here was the smokehouse. Then it said his cook Edith, her husband, and between 8 to 10 of their children would have lived in this room. I don't know if that's really taking care of them all that well. Pretty small room. It says here that Mr. Jefferson allowed his grandson to teach any of the slaves that wanted to learn how to learn. I'm gonna take this because this road says it takes you out to the Hemmings cabin. Let's go take a look inside. And this is called Mulberry Row, where they would plant the vegetables and everything that they were growing on the farm. The slaves would take care of. It says here that Jefferson took excellent records of things that he did around here. So it's actually one of the best documented plantations anywhere. And it says here in the 1950s, archaeologists found the foundations of the buildings on Jefferson's 1796 mutual insurance plat that he made. He made a description and diagram of his estate for the insurance. And as we're still walking past it, you can see they've identified different foundations for servants' quarters where slaves would have lived. And since he kept records, they identified this as Servants' House O. So right here is showing where there was once a laundry before they moved it inside, and a wash house, and a stone dwelling that was originally here. But after Jefferson's family sold the property in 1826 to pay his debts, the man who bought it, Uriah Phillips Levy, was a fan of Jefferson, and he purchased this, and then when his mother died, he buried her here. So he used the foundation as like a wall around her grave, which is right there. Rachel Levy Phillips, and then down here says the same thing. This chimney says it was part of the wood joining shop. This is really cool. He built this underneath the deck outside the house. It's very cool in here for people to walk through. See, here's the wine and storage cellars. And there's one of the places you would park the carriage. Now way back where you park at the visitor center is where the African American graveyard is. I was kind of wondering about that on the tour. And this section right here is it. No names, just a few rocks here and there. Here they do have all the names of the people that were enslaved here. About 100 at a time and 400 total. And then they have some of them identified on this map here. All right, my friends, we're gonna call it a day from Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. I hope you enjoyed the inside and outside grounds. You could easily spend 3 or 4 hours here enjoying the scenery and just taking everything in. There's a lot to read, a lot to see, some that I didn't even show you. So if you're in the area, make sure you come out and check it out. I wanna thank Alexil Lenoxe for becoming my newest Patreon. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great night and goodbye.